And we have. Ooh! Oh.
No. Man, you know when they gonna hit a home run. Like they know. Crowd knows.
But he just had that. Altuve just had that position.
All right, so let's do trade ramifications. Look as our first question.
As the first question?
Well, like check-in, then trade ramifications.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have any those questions you asked. I have nobody in my mind. So if y'all want, we could just riff it where y'all go, and I just
check your teams right now. Just check your teams right now.
Check my teams.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 teams.
Like it may,
That's what I'm doing right now.
I never look at my teams, bro.
I know, but it may come to you, like like who you.
But if they dropped them, I'm not gonna see them no more.
Yeah, I know, but it may come to you when you see like another player that's in that. For instance, like Aaron Rodgers would be your.
I'm more mental with. I'm more think these
go
stuff.
By positions. What quarterbacks hold
Rodgers.
drops?
Rodgers the only one that was significant to me.
And then running backs add drops or drops and holds.
See, like I don't have because I be holding on to these players like for the long haul.
Me too.
Like Chase Edmonds, I still had.
I'm dropping him. I did drop him.
I'm still holding him.
Yeah.
And I should have been dropped him, but I'm like, because I have the mindset of.
So that's a good one. So don't get that's a good one.
Okay.
Because that's one. So you can piggyback off of that one because I have that one as opposite. But yeah. I think we got.
Well, I don't got nobody that I dropped, so we'll go off of yours.
All right.
And then something may come to me. I may speak into it. I just don't have somebody right now at the top. Ooh! Oh, damn it.
Yeah, see? Can't be watching the game with you, man.
Would you like coffee or tea? Americano or espresso? I don't know how I can espresso. All my feels we can take in the sun. I think it'd be fun.
Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with two-time FFPC champion AB. Alongside him is my guy, Dio the Machine. Guys, before we actually start talking fantasy, I want you guys to check in right quick. How are your teams doing? Both of you guys are volume drafters. Give me just an overall feel about, is it a good season? Do you feel like you have some teams that can go the distance? How do you guys feel about this season so far?
Yeah, man, I think, we say it every year, but this year is just very, very unique. And I think, this year has its just kind of own feel to it that is very different from years past. It's been kind of up and down from, a player standpoint, elite players who, somewhat boom bust. And we have seen a lot of spike week performances. And we've seen a lot of players who, come close to putting up zeros, who are pretty much every week starters. And then we have, the elite QBs or the QBs who can kind of put up points. And we have QBs who will literally, put up single digit points. And there aren't many elite QBs out there. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the tight end position, unless you've been fortunate, and then we just lost Njoku. So it's, I think it's been kind of like a lot of ups and downs amongst rosters, teams that kind of didn't start off as hot. And like the last 3 or 4 weeks, particularly the Kamara and CMC teams have just absolutely caught fire. And then the teams that started off hot, the Amon-Ra St. Brown teams, the Devontae Adams teams, teams that, were just looked like they were, unbeatable to start the year. Yeah. Now, have kind of, taken a turn. So there's a lot of ebb and flow to this season. I kind of like it personally. I really do, because I feel like I can look at a team that, may have a losing record right now, but, I look at the roster and I really feel like this team can compete. And I think more so than any year when we're looking at the FFPC format or formats or leagues that, really award players for total points. You were, maybe top 2 in total points. I think this year more so than others, that's going to play a role, because I think you're going to see a lot of teams who may, finish the year at 3-9 or something like that, but may have been able to put up enough points throughout that year, because like this past week, for instance, I think I had a team that scored 190 and lost to a team that scored 200. Yeah. And I tell you guys, someone who really never looks at records. I know the records, but I don't really pay attention to them. For me, even my worst team record-wise, like I approach it as if this team could potentially get into the playoffs because we don't just go by wins and losses. Again, points play a major role as far as who can advance, and all you got to do is get a team in. So, you know, for me, I'm really happy with how this season is going thus far, and you know, I love the grind. It's a grind for sure.
It is a grind. Dio, I know that you don't like to talk about your teams. You really don't like to look at records. You just look at each team individually, and you just put your head down and just push through the season.
Correct. You pretty much said it all right there, man.
I know, but come on, man, give us a feel, man. Like,
No.
what is
I mean, like I said, you pretty much said it, but I like where I'm at. Abby made a lot of good points this season. It's unique in the fact. Well, I don't even want to say it's unique. I feel like football in itself is an evolving creature. Like it's just always changing. We can feel like it's similar, but in reality, you know, it's still just kind of moving. Maybe we're able to kind of figure out where the target is a little bit better than other years, but this year it seems like we're still kind of chasing it.
Yeah.
But again, I like it because I feel like every team is still kind of in it, especially with the format, like Abby was speaking of with FFPC, how they award total points. You know, it gets to a point where, you know, you can have a bad early run and then get super hot late in the season, and then just having those points can get you where you need to get. Or you can have a really hot run to start the season, and all your players either start underproducing or get hurt, and then you just kind of fizzle out. So I feel like you kind of, like you were just saying, kind of keep your head down. You have to, and just kind of keep grinding it out because you never know what can happen. I mean, even this past week, I had a team that's really not doing that great hit 200 points. You know, so when you see something like that, it's like, this is a team you can't give up on. Even though I don't give up on any of my teams, but if I was more casual, you know, I know people do give up on their teams. You know, you kind of see the type of moves people make. So if I was that type of person, if you were to see something like that, you'd realize that, you know, you might be giving up on, you know, a gold mine right there. You know, a team that could really make some noise. So again, I like where everything's at right now. We're still real early where I don't feel like anybody's out of it. Even if a team has one win, what is it, like 1-7 right now? I still feel like if they, you know, make the right moves, make the right roster decisions, start-sit decisions, you know, they can make a run for it. So
is it all about getting into the playoffs, and then at that point, it's anybody's game?
So
or do you feel like,
I mean, for me, it's not even really getting in the playoffs. I'm trying to get one of those first two seeds because I only care about the tournament.
Right,
you know? I mean, you know, you can fight to get in the playoffs, get that fourth and third seed. If you end up losing the first round or even the championship round, you go nowhere. You know, you'll. I mean, you might get that second place prize money, however much that is, but you're not going to get into that tournament. And the tournament is really the true value in playing FFPC because, you know, just winning your league, the amount of money that they pay out, it's kind of, you know, marginal. You know, if you look at it compared to, you know, other, you know, insulated leagues. So really the goal of this is to try to get into that tournament and kind of compete for that main prize. So I'm trying to get one of those first two seeds. And, you know, if you're not aware, the first seed is the team with the best record, and the second seed is the team with the best, with the most points. You know,
I think you kind of, you know, the way you phrased it, you know, or we just kind of, you know, have our eyes set on just kind of getting in, whether it's the playoffs or the tournament. And honestly, like, you can't, like, you literally have to be good at everything. You got to be good. You got to have the mindset, okay, like, I want to win it all. You know, I want to create a lineup that can take down the entire tournament because that's why we're playing. But you also have that mindset of, okay, I need to make sure that, like, I, you know, cross my T's, dot my I's to make sure that I get a win this week. You know, and then I need to also, you know, look, you know, a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, at bye weeks, or at, you know, guys that are potentially coming off of IR. So you really have to do it all. I mean, like, that's why it's such a grind. Like, you can't just come in and say, like, you know, I'm going for strictly upside. Like, you know, if this team, like, you know, I'd rather this team be 0-13 and not make the playoffs than, you know, be mediocre and make the playoffs and make the tournament. Like, I think you have to play it in such a way where, like, you were like, you know, you were trying to win at every single level. You mentioned start sits earlier. I feel like this year more than ever, start sits are so critical, and I think not just from a standpoint of like maximizing the total points in your team, but now more than ever, I think you can differentiate your teams, you know, from a lot of other guys, because a lot of us have the same players, or somebody in your league likely has the same players that you do on your roster. But did they start him? You know, I think in the first quarter we talked about Njoku, you know, where we started in those first 2 weeks and he busted, and then he, and then he made up for it. So I think, after looking at the first 3 or 4 weeks, what I learned was that, like, I felt like this year was more than ever. A lot of these sort of kind of fringe starters, or even guys that we think, we look at as every week starters, we have to now look at as guys that, maybe need to be benched, even for guys that we drafted rounds later. An example of that is someone like T.J. Hawkinson. With the exception of the week where he blew up when Amon-Ra was out, it was obviously an easy start that week.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of weeks where I've set him on the bench for an Evan Ingram, for a Njoku, and he just continues to sit on my bench. And now, obviously, with the trade, he'll probably still sit on my bench for someone like an Evan Ingram, depending on the matchup, depending on the opponents, depending on, Vegas total points. But there are a lot of guys like that. And sometimes you're going to get them wrong, but, like, if you can hit and you can kind of get on a 3 to 4 week run of where you were, like, making the right start-sit decisions, I think, to me, like, that plays such an important and pivotal role. Because we get into this habit of, like, okay, this guy went off this week. I mean, that's basically what waivers are. Who went off this past week? Let's pick him up, Oh, Demarcus Robinson went off, so let me just, put a couple $, waiver in, add in. Oh, Terrence Marshall's getting more snaps. Let's put a bid in for him. Basically, all you got to do is look at who went off the past week or who started, playing a little bit more, and that's what people want to add. But we got to kind of get over that as well. We also got to look at, okay, who's been disappointing and why have they been disappointing? Has it been because they've had bad play? Has it been because their quarterback has bad play? Has it been because of the matchups? Because if you can kind of figure that out, when everybody else is now off of that player, you can then decide to start that player. I'll give you another example, Rondale Moore. And here's another tangent. We have to eliminate one game happened, this is how it is, this is what it's going to be moving forward. Or a guy gets injured, this guy's going to fill his role, this is how it is moving forward. NFL is no longer like that. So, that Rondale Moore situation, D-Hop came back, I think a lot of us started Rondale Moore and got a bad result, and then immediately the talk was, okay, well, D-Hop is taking up all the slot role, then I also brought in Robbie Anderson, so Rondale Moore is, he's almost worthless. Yeah. And then what happened the next week? Saw a significant increase in routes run, ran a lot more out of the slot. Obviously, he broke one off. And you can argue whether or not, there's going to be an in-between or whether this is going to continue. But that still shows you that, like, that Thursday night game with D-Hop return did not necessarily, like, predict future outcomes or was not the standard for future outcomes. So, again, it just kind of all goes back to, like, us trying to figure out and make sure we get the right start decisions because I think, again, this year more than ever, like, if we can hit that, that's going to put us above the field. We can hopefully avoid the landmines and then hopefully, get guys in our lineups who had them boom weeks.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, just to add to it, I was talking to Dorsey this past week. Shout out to Dorsey. But,
Shout out to Dorsey.
I was telling him how it seems like fantasy football is kind of changing the way where in the past you could just have these certain players that you could just leave in your lineup week in and week out because they had the roles. You knew they were going to get the opportunities and they were going to produce the stats. But now it seems like fantasy football season long is almost like becoming a game of DFS. It's like you build a team where it's like you build your pool of players, if you will. And then every week you look at your pool of players and decide who is going to start this week.
Absolutely.
Which means you're now looking at matchups. You're now looking at snap counts. You're now looking at other players sharing targets. You're looking at things like that. When before, and I'm talking back in the day, like the Ray Rice with the Ravens years. Ray Rice just always in your lineup. It doesn't matter. Like he's there. So it's kind of interesting. Like Abby's saying, that's where the start sits come into play. Because you have players like Bateman who has a great week one week, and then bust the next week. You have a player like Conklin who has great weeks and then just starts to die, and then comes back. So it's almost like you can't just say, okay, this guy is the guy. He's in my roster. Set it on Wednesday morning and then just see what the score is like on Sunday. You really have to be a little bit more nuanced with how you kind of
And the other thing too is
take care
like,
of your roster.
you know,
Manage
all
your roster.
all these emotions as far as like getting upset with the coaches and getting upset with you know, what should happen, or a guy who may be, you know, more talented than another player, or maybe deserving because of his talent, and then, you know, we don't see that guy getting playing time, we don't see that guy getting targets, and then we get upset. You know, we're not necessarily upset at the outcome, we're upset because we started that guy and resulted in a bad outcome. So we got to get better at ignoring that and taking that into account. We can no longer say,
It's almost like you're saying we need to be more upset at ourselves.
Absolutely,
Our decision making thing.
Yes.
And
you can't blame the head coach.
Sometimes you might say it's a process issue, but sometimes good process lead to bad results. You know, and vice versa. So you know, it's really where it's a thing where you really have to more be upset at the fact that maybe you didn't take it that next step further in the process. Maybe you're like, okay, this is a perfect situation, perfect scenario. Things are going to work out for me. But that other factor that you didn't take into account was why it didn't work out. But you can take that opportunity to learn from it. You know, I can say, okay, I missed it this time.
Exactly.
Next time, I'll kind of take that into consideration so I don't miss it.
Like you could, like we can't. That's the whole thing with the Pitt situation. Like I completely understand.
Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
I completely understand the idea of drafting him with the upside, etc. But we saw how they used him last year. And yes, you can definitely, you know, kind of project that was his first year. He saw quite a bit of targets, but just didn't get in the end zone. I mean, he's going to take that step forward. Like, I'm 100% on board with that way of thinking and taking that plunge and taking that. But then after a couple of weeks, you know, you can no longer get upset at Arthur Smith for doing what he's doing, and because he's not forcing you to start Kyle Pitts. Right. So either you got to figure out the matchup for Kyle Pitts, or you got to be in a situation where he's the best option. But at no point can we continue to say, oh, you know, Arthur Smith is this type of coach, because we're playing a game of fantasy football. Okay, and so we need to know what the coaches are going to do, and we need to what the defensive scheme is going to be. You know, who do we anticipate them like taking out of the game, or bracket coveraging, or putting their elite corner, or traveling a corner? Like we have to take all of this into effect. So if we just look at talent and we ignore everything else, then I think at that point, then we're not really reaching our maximal level of, you know, being the best fantasy player that we can be.
So let me ask you this: Are you making a decision week in and week out now whether to start Kyle Pitts? Like he's not a
absolutely. That's like
crazy.
He's never really been an automatic start. I think last week I ended up starting him, but I'm also someone who carries multiple tight ends. Like I'll carry.
The reason I say it's crazy is just because of how high we're being drafted.
But
like there's not a lot of players drafted.
That was months ago. That was months ago.
I mean, I definitely. It's just that looking back and, you know, hindsight 2020 or whatever you want to say, it's just crazy to think a person that you drafted in the first 3 rounds, not due to injury, you know, is not somebody that's an automatic start. You know,
and you learn from that now. Like now you learn. Now you learn. Okay, do I really want to dedicate, that higher ADP or value, like that higher draft pick, to someone who I am not confident I can leave in my lineup? So I learned. You learn from that. But then you may also miss, because some of those guys are guys that people really want to, take that leap of faith with, and some of those guys potentially league winners. But, you end up with the Najee Harrises, the Kyle Pitts, the DeAndre Swifts of the world.
What about Najee? Same question.
Oh, Najee's been on the bench for a couple weeks now.
Really?
I have, bro, I'm telling you, when I look at my team, and I'm like, you are not performing. You are not in a situation where you can't perform. You will remain on the bench until further notice. Yeah. I don't care what your name is. I really don't care. There are a few exceptions. I'm not going to sit a Tyreek Hill. Okay. I'm not going to sit,
why would you sit a Tyreek Hill? Like,
but
what did Tyreek Hill do to you?
So if you remember back from last year, there were a couple of weeks last year where Tyreek Hill was having a few bad games.
Bump that. You play.
But I know you're always going to play Tyreek Hill. But what I'm saying is, like, excluding players like Tyreek Hill, which are very few. Like if you've had, because it's not just that Najee has had some bad games. It's he looks bad.
Yeah.
The offense does not look great. The offensive line does not look great.
Usage,
Jalen Warren looks better.
That's what I was gonna say.
Jalen Warren
is
looks
getting
better.
Much usage too,
you know,
man.
you want to talk about Zeke versus Pollard? Hey, we used to be having a conversation Warren versus Najee.
Fair
like,
enough,
like
fair
real
enough.
thing, like real talk.
I really think there's a chance he might, usurp him.
Oh,
You think
man,
so?
Scooping up Najee.
Maybe not by depth chart,
Yeah.
but
But by
almost
carries,
like Zeke and Pollard
Yeah.
situation where it's like he's getting these high value touches and
Yeah.
producing with them.
Yeah, Tomlin won't allow it, but I think I do agree with you that he
Yeah.
gets more touches. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's keep this focus on looking backwards before we go forward and talk about the future. Let's talk about notable drops. Like looking backwards, have you guys dropped anyone that you didn't anticipate that you'd be dropping at this point in the season? Any notable drops from your team?
oh yeah. Like I said, like I have no issues dropping
Dude's
players.
cutthroat. He probably dropped everybody.
I will
y'all
drop.
get outta here.
I will drop you with a quickness. Now,
of y'all can go.
like remember when Mooney started off the year poorly?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not drop Mooney. So guys like that, I don't drop.
Okay.
Because you're in a situation where you're still, and we'll see what kind of happens moving forward. But you're in a situation where you are that team's number one. Okay. And we see teams.
Is he?
Okay, that's what I said. We'll see moving forward. But prior to the trade, he was that team's number one.
Yeah.
So in that situation, like we talked about Chicago, the Bears, and I talked about how Fields
He was
like.
a fake number one, by the way. But yeah.
So he is. But I talked about Fields, how I was seeing improvement, and then he played the Washington game and made me look stupid. But what we've seen is actual improvement, and we've
He is
seen the
improving.
offense,
Yeah.
and we've seen the offense improve,
Yeah.
and so those things happen throughout the season. Like that's why we do this show in quarters, because every quarter is different, and you're seeing that with your teams right now. The first quarter you had teams that look great. Those teams now don't look great in the second quarter, and then you had teams that did look great. Now your teams look great. You know, one of my like the home league started off 0-3. You know, and I talk a lot of shit in this league. I love it, but they probably listening right now. Shout out. No.
You know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
here.
y'all know.
Look at that standing.
Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. But man, started off 0-3 and then it's just been like on a tear as far as points, as far as wins. And I literally told him, I was like, y'all know what this is. I was like, I'm 0-3 right now. I'm about to be there. I'm gonna be there. You know I'm gonna be in the playoffs.
I'm gonna be there.
Like, you know I'm gonna be in the playoffs. You get ready. Don't worry about me. Like, you get ready. But so like the season, happens to me like in quarters. But so
What's the name of your home league, by the way? Did y'all name it?
yeah, Longhorn Football League, Fantasy Football League.
I thought it was gonna be something.
UT.
Oh, yeah,
UT, what's up?
I thought it was gonna be something cooler than that. But what's
Hey,
the name of your home league?
Keep
Dad?
it traditional.
All my home leagues, I'm the commissioner of, and it's all my frat brothers. So it's
So-
the name of our founders.
Okay.
So each founder has a league.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I change every year. One year is like the different colors.
Yeah.
I just, I'm always trying to do something
Nah,
a
we
little
keep it
bit more
traditional.
All right.
creative.
But so yeah, as far as notable drops, okay, guys that I've dropped, and some of these, I mean, if you're dropping them, like I don't think you're gonna. It's not a huge surprise. Chase Edmonds, have no use for him, and I actually dropped him last week. And the reason that I dropped him last week is because it's not necessary. It's because of his role. So I held on to him because I felt like if Mostert got hurt, he would take that lead. The last 2 weeks, I was not convinced. So regardless of the trade, I would have dropped him anywhere. Yeah. We saw Salvin, we've seen Gaskins, but we've seen that they want Chase Edmonds in a specific role. But then I also saw the play. He does not run very well in that system. He's not in between. He does not run that outside zone very well. Like, he has a lot of difficulty with that. It's a lot of negative plays, and they learned that very early on.
But like, how do you feel about dropping him now that he's even better?
I have zero interest. Guys like that, I have zero interest. Let somebody else, start him in that lineup and he can get 3 for 36 and 12 in between the tackles.
Yeah.
So I had zero interest. So I dropped Chase Edmonds. Who else was it? Harrison Bryant. Because I literally just picked him up.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the 0 targets. Okay. This kind of goes back to what I'm.
Is that
I'm
a
seeing-
noticeable drop though?
Harrison Bryant.
Bryant.
Yeah, I mean, because we don't really know when the Joker's coming back. I mean, and he was like,
he ain't noticeable.
yeah, noticeable
I
drop.
know.
Okay, but the reason why I
Well, you can
dropped
speak
him,
on it, yeah.
the reason why I dropped him because it's kind of going back to a point I made earlier, as far as like I think we keep falling into this trap. Okay, starter gets injured, the replacement, at least gets us 75, 80% of the production. And what we're seeing this year, I think, in a lot of these situations, the teams are like, no, we have other players. We're just going to scheme these other better players open. We're not going to necessarily give the backup who is not as talented or who they don't feel is as talented the same amount of looks. And he may come out and do well, but he's going through a bye, 0 targets. We got 6 teams on bye this week. Bombmageddon.
He shared the snaps with other tight ends too.
Yeah, and they brought in Pharaoh Brown. Yeah, so it wasn't a Njoku type role. So dropped him. Jared McKinnon. I know he's not a fancy one, but I have zero interest in these backs. You seeing Isaiah Pacheco come in. They still got CEH. He's not really someone who's going to get you explosive weeks. I'd rather just take a take a flyer on another backup in that position. Darrell Henderson.
Oh, so you dropped Darrell Henderson.
In a few leagues. Okay, I'm holding in some.
I'm holding on.
But I have this is the last week, and it has nothing to do with his production. I'm not looking at his production. I am looking at his role. Okay, I am looking at his role. And if Kyron Williams gets activated, and we see a situation where they're using Kyron Williams and they're using Rivers, okay, and they're using Darrell Henderson, this is the guy I don't want to hold because at any moment Akers could also come back. So this is a guy that I would rather somebody else take. The quote unquote sabotage drops, not only so it can hold.
I love that term.
It can
whoever coined that sabotage drop. That term.
Like you were holding a roster hostage by keeping Darrell Henderson on your roster. When he's not producing. I thought he was I was in love with that first week when I saw him get all those touches, but it's just never, they just don't, for whatever reason, either he's not good enough or they don't trust him in that type of role.
They just don't trust him.
Because they're always trying to get these other guys in. There was no reason, Rivers may have not seen as many snaps, but he was getting as many high value touches.
Yeah, but he didn't look as good as
Henderson was hurt though.
But he didn't look as good.
He had an illness.
Something was going on.
It was an illness.
Remember Matt Berry put that tweet out? By the way, I didn't see that Matt Berry tweet initially because obviously he has me blocked. But people were talking about. No, really, what it was is people were picking up Ronnie Rivers in a bunch of my leagues.
Yeah.
I was like, why are people? And then I did my little. Inspector Gadget search, and I found the Matt Berry tweet, and he actually put in his tweet that Henderson is not healthy. So before that, I thought, like you said, it was an illness. Yeah. But him saying all the other stuff, him actually being right.
I watched that game. Henderson was about as healthy as he did.
Him just saying that, and then him actually being right about Rivers. Makes me feel there was some merit to it. I mean, who knows?
I felt like situations like that. I think it's rare for someone with that much reach to just put out a tweet like that, an isolated tweet. He, in my mind, I believe, heard something from someone that this guy was going to get something. And when you see something like that, he does something or Schefter does something, I'll just leap of faith. Yeah. If you're wrong, okay.
What I'm saying
but
is
you don't want to miss the boat on that.
But in the tweet, he just also put that he was not healthy.
Gotcha.
So that just kind of rung out to me a little bit. Yeah. That was more significant than the rest of it. And it also could have been a situation where because I don't think he practiced that week, last week, it might have been a thing where because Henderson wasn't there for the install, and Rivers was there, it was just like, this guy knows what we're doing. He knows the game plan. Let's use him. It's going to be very interesting to see how they utilize Rivers this week. Yeah. It's going to be very, very interesting. Because Henderson got a fair amount. Malcolm Brown got snaps too. I don't know. I do have a fair amount of Rivers. I was picking them up, so I had them already. So we'll see how it goes.
Any noticeable drops, though?
For me? See, I was just listening to Abby name all those players. All those guys that I have, I still have.
Yeah, me too. I'll be honest. And
the reason why I have, because you name a handful of running backs, but the reason I don't drop these guys because running backs are just so hard to come by. I used to always be like in these type of leagues, if I'm going to drop a running back, I need to be replacing them with the running back. Yeah, because what you end up seeing with your rosters, if you're dropping all these what I would consider bums that play running back and replace them with other positions. Next thing you look back at your roster,
well, you need a running back to
four
fill
running backs. Yeah. And it's like two are on by, one is trash.
I have that
problem. So it's like me. I'm like,
but that's why you also got to play the game of thinking. So you got to do it all. Like you got to get the high upside guy,
but this
and you got to think about the bias.
Like I don't drop them because I also know from experience that guys that lose value or have no value now, in a few weeks can have value.
Yeah.
Can be significant. Somebody I can utilize in my lineup.
But the example with Henderson is, what better situation could you have asked for Henderson?
I could tell you.
What better
I'll tell
situation?
you,
He has been in the best situation.
The better situation is everybody else getting hurt.
Everybody has been hurt.
all
Everybody. They literally
No, I'm talking about-
sat Henderson and said, let's call Malcolm Brown.
No, I'm saying if
They called
everybody-
Malcolm Brown.
Who looked awful, by the way.
What I'm saying is everybody's
He looked
hurt
up.
at that time. Not they have somebody that replaced them, but if
Everybody
other-
was hurt at that time.
But you just said Malcolm Brown was there. I'm talking about if everybody else is hurt.
They brought him in. So exactly, when everybody is hurt, guess what they do? They call someone up or they bring someone in.
But that's what I'm saying. The best
fifth-round
situation.
rookie.
The best situation is if
Rivers. Where did Rivers come from?
The best situation is if all of a sudden everybody just
No
gets
idea.
hurt and he's the only guy there. That's all I'm saying.
But that situation
It
has
could
been
be-
there. That situation has been
They
there.
replace the guys. Is what I'm saying.
Okay,
if
so
they don't
it-
replace them, is what I'm saying.
When have they not replaced the guys?
Like look at what they did with the Colts.
I'm not talking about the goal. I'm talking specifically, but
No,
because
I'm
each
just
situation
saying,
is different.
If the situation plays out where they treat his situation like the Colts did, he
don't-
can
they-
have value. Is all I'm saying.
Okay, well, I will let you guys pretend as if they're going to treat this differently.
You're talking to, bro. We saw last year how Rex Burkhead ended up being significant.
But
Like,
that's a different coach, a different team, a different situation.
I mean, all situations are different, and all situations also evolve.
I'm just saying, I've gotten-
because remember there was a time period where Sean McVay, as a coach, used one main running back, and that running back was the bell cow.
Yeah.
And now you see him using multiple running backs. So situations always change. All I'm saying is we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. Running backs are hard to come by. If I drop Darrell Henderson, who am I gonna replace it with? You
It's
know,
always-
like, who
it's
is
always.
who is the other running backs out there that is
Deion
gonna even
Jackson.
get-
I will.
Deion
like,
Jackson is like a player that you're
I
not really going to
don't
see.
care.
On
I
the
will.
waiver there.
I will. No, that's who I dropped them for, or that's who I put in the waiver ad for
You mean in the past?
this week.
Oh, Deion Jackson was
But
out there?
Deion Jackson
Yeah,
is out
he's
there,
out-
like
yeah,
in
he's
a
out
few of
there
my
in the
What
leagues.
leagues
Yeah.
are you in? Shit.
No, like
Because
I got
because you had Hines come back. How many
Yeah.
times?
So
How many
people
times
were
do people?
dropping him?
Yeah,
How many?
people dropped
Okay,
him.
so
How many times do people?
that makes my exact point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's a different
running
situation.
backs- what I'm saying is because running backs are so hard to come by, I try not to drop them because their situation can change. Like look at Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake week 1 was a hot waiver wire ad because he got all that work. Next 2 weeks he did nothing.
But you're bringing
Fast
up.
forward-
But you're bringing up examples of other teams.
No,
I'm
but-
talking about
but
this
it's not-
specific
it's not-
team.
but I'm
where
not-
we've seen that. We've
But I-
seen him be the
but
only
I'm
guy
not talking
once
about. I'm not talking about any
twice,
specific anything.
and third
But I'm
time.
not talking about any specific anything. I'm just talking about the fact that running backs' values fluctuate so much. Somebody can be dead 1 week, and then you look 2 weeks later, and he has a pulse. So for me, there's no running back that has any talent that I'm just gonna just say, let me get rid of him just to get rid of him. Now, if you have another player out there that's in a better situation that you like better, sure, I'll do it.
Do you think Deion Jackson is in a better situation? Than,
Absolutely, because this is the thing. When you're in the okay,
I don't
think
know
about
about
it.
that either,
You're in
but-
you're in a tournament right now. Go look at Darrell Henderson's game logs. We're in week 8.
I don't know, but Deion
What?
Jackson.
Once
when are you
JT
gonna
comes
start?
back,
When are you gonna start?
Once JT comes back,
This is
Deion's
not
value
this
is gone.
this is I'm not picking up Deion Jackson to start. I'm picking him up because if Jonathan Taylor, who is dealing with an ankle right now, if he's hurt, they have shown us that they are willing to give him a significant load.
Right.
Where in another situation with Darrell Henderson, he has been in the most optimal situation where he's been the only guy, and they have shown us repeatedly that does not matter, that they are going to bring in other guys.
Both those scenarios come with risk. If JT is not hurt, then Deion Johnson or Jackson, whatever, literally has no value. You know, you can't play.
I'm
him.
fine with that.
He's just gonna be on your bench. He's gonna be a roster clogger. You know, he's gonna
I'm
be
fine
somebody
with
just
that.
on your bench that's just wasting
Do
space.
you own Jalen Warrens?
Yeah.
You own Tony Pollard's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pollard
You
is
can play
different.
both those
No,
guys.
Pollard was a roster clogger until he
No,
wasn't.
both of those players.
Yes, he was.
Pollard has standalone value.
Both of those guys you can play though.
So understand this. Deion Jackson right now, he does have a little bit of a role. They don't have Naheem Hines. Okay?
Right.
So
it
Deion
remains
Jackson,
to be seen what his role is going to be going.
his
forward.
role, he caught like 10 for 10 passes. He's a natural pass catcher.
That was
I know.
2 weeks ago, bro.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
That was
Okay.
only one game.
Okay.
There's one time 2 weeks ago with a different
If you were
quarterback.
fine holding guys like Tony Pollard, Jalen
Don't
Warren,
put Tony Pollard in his
Alexander
class.
Madison.
Don't
If
put-
you were fine, if you were not going to drop guys like that, you should not be dropping guys like Deion Jackson.
Nobody's
and
saying,
I value
nobody's
those
saying
guys.
Drop, I'm not saying drop Deion Johnson.
But what I'm saying is, I value those guys over guys like Darrell Henderson because if they're put in a situation,
Why not both? Like that commercial, like that salsa
Yeah, yeah.
commercial. Why not both?
Because sometimes I need to buy them again.
Man.
Sometimes I need to get rid of one.
Nah, you keep both of them guys.
Yeah.
No.
Ain't that many running backs out there.
Well, you know what? If he's out there,
Okay,
please
so-
go pick
so
him up.
anyway, let me
Go
answer
pick him
the
up.
question.
Go pick him
Oh,
up.
I'm trying to. Don't worry.
Go pick him up.
My bid is out
Actually,
there.
let me check my
Because
weight.
guess what? If you would have started him, you basically 0 for 9. You're not really getting much use out of him.
Okay.
Started who?
Darrell Henderson, go look at his game logs. Y'all, we're 9 weeks in, and you were trying to convince me that now we got Kyron Williams coming back, we got Ronnie Rivers into the mix, we got Malcolm Brown in the mix, and there was already talks of them smoothing out things with Akers.
None of that stuff
so now you
matters to
got
me.
4 more guys
None,
in the
none
mix.
of that stuff matters
and
to me.
somehow he's
still a running back that gets
as good.
snaps that has an opportunity to score you fantasy points.
let's go.
And there's
Look at
too many running backs
all
out there
of
on the waiver
there's
wire.
a lot of Deion Jackson has the same, if not
But you
more
keep
value.
saying the same one player. We're talking about globally. There's a lot of running backs out there that literally will give you a 0. The running back is a finite position as far as fantasy value. Wide receiver is different. Wide receivers, you can pick up a wide receiver 3 or 4, and he can just luckily give you a good play.
If they can
But
give me
running backs-
zeros, I also want the one that can give me 20, 30-point games.
We're talking,
And Darrell Henderson cannot give me those.
I'm talking about running backs. When you're talking about just the running back position, the whole in fantasy, it's very hard to find a running back that you can fit in your starting lineup.
Exactly. That's why I drop guys like Darrell Henderson.
I'm not going to drop a guy that I can actually see as being able. Even though Darrell Henderson didn't do much last week, he still scored like 7-8 points. That's still valuable. That's still better than nothing. There's a lot of instances, especially right now with bye weeks, with injuries. There's a lot of instances where you literally have no running backs to play.
I don't have that situation. I don't have that
Okay.
situation. And I would rather have
superstar.
And like I said,
well, a lot of us mortals out here.
Yeah, a lot of
we
us
struggling
mortal.
to try to figure out.
well, what I'm saying is like I would rather have a Deion Jackson than a Darrell Henderson.
Again, I'm
Have
just
you
saying.
pulled up his game
I'm
log
just saying,
yet?
why
Pull
not
up
get
Darrell-
both? Is all
pull
I'm
up Darrell-
saying.
You got 9 weeks of Darrell Henderson. What more do you need to see? You keep
I
telling
don't
me
need
his
to see-
situation
I
can
don't
improve.
need to see anything, but I'm just telling you. Last year, Rex Burkhead, we saw 13 weeks of Rex Burkhead being nothing, and then he ends up.
That's a
you know,
completely
getting that
different running
crazy
back and a
game.
completely different team,
all
a
I'm
completely
saying
different
is running
situation.
backs, I hold on to because I
Got him. Let's go.
I want to have that.
One more inning, baby.
I want to have that option of being able to play a guy in my running back slot. And a lot of teams, not just my teams, but I look around other teams, a lot of teams don't have the luxury of having a running back.
And you
to
know what
play.
I'm thinking in my mind? I want my league mates to be able to play Darrell Henderson. So here you go.
But the point I'm making
Spend
is
some waiver.
The point I'm making is they have to play Darrell Henderson because there's no alternative.
Please
There's
do.
a lot
Then-
of teams
perfect.
like that.
I'd rather you do that than get lucky and start somebody else who could
they
actually
start?
does.
There's no running back.
They can start
Deion
Deion Jackson.
You keep saying this. Deion Jackson's not out there like that. I'm saying if you're
Like he was in like 3
I mean,
or
yeah,
4
he's a
leagues.
hot waiver wire pick now, but but you're also competing against other waiver. Honestly, I'm surprised.
But I want
he's
people
out there.
who see the name Darrell Henderson and they're like, oh man, that's Darrell Henderson. Oh man, yeah, I gotta start.
But I don't think it's about that. I just think it's about the fact that people need running backs. You know, they need somebody to play in those holes, and there's not a lot out there in the waiver wire. I mean, you keep saying it's Deion Jackson, but other than Deion Jackson, who was really out there at the running back position this week? You know, Jeff Wilson, who was maybe dropped, maybe not.
I would much rather have Jeff Wilson than
But I'm
Darrell
saying
Henderson.
maybe drop. He wasn't out there across the board.
He was out there in some leagues.
Like these guys that we're bringing up are actually rostered in a good amount of leagues. There's no player that you can look at the waiver wire running back that isn't rostered much at all that you can feel comfortable adding to your team.
Sometimes you have teams where you have a lot of running backs, and I would prefer to have a wide receiver, or maybe
I mean,
like
that's fine.
And like for instance, I actually think I dropped him for Carter. I actually think I dropped him for Carter,
I mean, that's fine.
DeAndre Carter. So
That's fine, man. I don't really believe much in DeAndre Carter anyway, but that's a whole nother discussion. But again, so as far as me answering the question,
good luck with that. Yeah.
as far as me answering the question, the only guy I can think of that I've dropped, because again, I'm not dropping any running backs. I'm not. There's probably. I think I dropped like some guys like Robbie Anderson, who I didn't have much of. I dropped Jarvis Landry, who I didn't have much of.
I mean, those aren't notable.
Yeah,
Who
but those are
you
the
drop?
guys I really dropped.
Who you drop?
The only valuable guy I can say I dropped is like Aaron Rodgers. You know, and
Okay.
I don't even think that's
So
much
you've
of a
given up
surprise. He
on
hasn't
him.
really done much.
Yeah.
Aaron
He's
Rodgers was
gonna do
getting
something
me
this
like
week.
15 points a week, and you know, with the way quarterbacks are scoring, and I'm not even talking about the high end quarterbacks. I'm talking about middling quarterbacks. You know,
Yeah.
your Genos, your Goffs. You know,
Yeah.
these guys will give you more than that.
20 points is
Tua.
like it's like where I want my
Yeah,
floor
you
to
know
be
what I'm saying too.
supported.
These are giving me, and those
Yeah.
are all guys that were drafted after. Russell Wilson's also a guy I dropped recently. So I guess for me, quarterbacks.
Yeah, but the thing about
Oh,
Aaron
my.
Rodgers to me is that's a situation that can improve. Like the line can get better. They can
I
get
don't think it'll
healthier.
improve because I feel like his
They've
weapons
been
are the
some
Those
problem.
receivers can't do
Bakhtiari's
it.
like been hurt like pretty much all the year.
But
Those receivers can improve.
Those
Those are rookie
receivers
wide
can-
receivers.
yeah.
They
I
have
don't think the
they have
receivers
their
can
they have
improve.
their round. You don't think so, but we've seen plenty of rookie wide receivers get better
Right,
over
but I
a
don't
year.
think those receivers can improve.
I mean, come on now.
Like, I don't think the Packers.
You can
wide
make that
receivers-
statement.
No.
You can make that. Come on, really?
No, seriously. Look. Who are the options? Dobbs has had the opportunity. He hasn't been able to do it. Like
He actually looked really good last week.
but he's had the opportunity.
He looked pretty good last week.
You should be playing him in DFS this
but
week.
he's had the opportunity. He has been somebody that's been.
Guess what? He's starting in
untrustworthy.
my lineup this week
That's fine. That's fine.
over
Again,
Darrell Henderson.
Stop taking that.
I'll tell you that much.
Personal. I'm not talking about your team. I'm talking about just in general. Dobbs has been somebody. 2 weeks ago, he gave you a 0. So yeah, he looked good last week, but 2 weeks ago he gave you nothing. Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy. Christian Watson can't stay healthy. Lazard can't stay healthy
Until they
Amari
can.
Rodgers is barely getting snaps. Randall Cobb is hurt. Like that, and then when they've actually been out there, Lazard probably is the only one that you can say you felt good as far as his production.
Who's the exact comp to that from a quarterback standpoint? Justin Herbert.
Come to
None-
what?
To Aaron Rodgers. None of his wide receivers have been able to stay healthy. His line is hurt. So you can make and he has both of them have a
Herbert's
lead.
been putting up fantasy points.
Not always.
I didn't say. Look
But
at
I'm
Aaron-
saying, okay.
Aaron Rodgers hasn't put up fantasy points yet, though.
Okay. Let's
He
let's-
hasn't. He hasn't though. Like he hasn't.
He is not. But let's see what he does moving forward.
I mean, I'm just saying that's the drop I've made. If
Okay.
there's anybody
Yeah. Okay.
significant.
All right. So let's also look at notable stashes. We've kind of talked about those a little bit. Let's start looking forward for the rest of the season. Let's talk about notable stashes. Like, who haven't you given up on? Like, who's that player that, like, you should have dropped? He has not produced, but you just can't
So I
drop
guess
him right
all
now.
the players that Abby brought up,
Right,
that I still got on my roster. Shoot, I gotta
Yeah, no.
Apparently
reevaluate
Darrell
how I'm
Henderson
managing
is
my
one.
guy.
I got a couple. Okay.
right.
Logan Thomas, who's been hurt.
I can't
Okay.
drop him either. That's a good
I just need to see. I need to see when he's healthy, and I need to see
Honestly, guys,
what his role is.
I don't know why y'all have Logan Thomas on your
Listen,
team.
I have Logan Thomas on the team that I have 2 other tight ends.
Before he
on, and I
got
just can't
before he got
What are
hurt,
y'all-
he was serviceable.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt, he was
okay.
serviceable.
He was serviceable, but he wasn't league winning.
No.
So for you holding
Wait,
on, you're
now,
holding on
were
want
you
to
saying league? So now you want
No,
the league
I'm
winning.
just saying you're holding on to
now we can't do double digit points. Now we need league winning.
Listen. You're holding on to a tight because I'm assuming y'all have other tight ends, unless Logan Thomas
No,
is
it's a
your
tight
main-
end premium league.
So Logan Thomas, your only main tight end?
No.
He's not the
For me,
only
he's
one.
like my third or fourth.
You played
tight
him
end.
against me last week.
I
though,
like
and he
having
gave
three.
you
I like
goose
having
up.
a good 3 times.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
You played him against me last week.
Who?
But you beat me last week. But you played him against me, Logan.
Oh, that was
Thomas.
an accident. Because
Yeah.
I actually had Dolchich and Ingram.
Mhm, and you
But
left
so
Dulcich
actually,
on the bench.
I had Dolchich.
Yeah.
I had Dolchich in there. Dolchich, and I was switching to Ingram.
Man, nobody cares about y'all's
Give me about a few points.
But I did whack that ass though.
I did whack a few points.
With
Give
Logan
me about like
Thomas,
3
I
points.
spotted you a whole position.
Can I
A
make
tight
my
end
point?
position.
Can I make my point?
Yeah, go ahead.
With Logan Thomas, if he's going to be a third or fourth tight end, if he doesn't have true like high end type potential, what is he really there for? Because you're going to have 2 other tight ends at least there that actually are going to be able to be serviceable. That you're not going to sit down for Logan Thomas.
I don't
now,
agree with
on
that.
the flip end, so you think Logan Thomas has high end potential?
I do. I think this is so. Logan
I
Thomas.
don't.
So Logan Thomas came into the year after like a severe, not just an isolated ACL, a severe knee injury.
Okay.
Came back a lot earlier than people anticipated. And you could argue, just don't pick up players like that. But we did, and there were still some weeks where he produced. The reason I like Logan Thomas is because he had an offense that has historically shown that they do care about the tight ends, in the right situation. We'll see if that's the case moving forward. His quarterback previously, Wentz, and his current quarterback, Heineke, both have shown a propensity to throw it to the tight ends
I think
or
one
to him
factor-
specifically.
One factor
So
you're-
yeah, I
you're
do
not
think he.
mentioning-
I think
one
he
factor
has
you're
it.
not mentioning with the Commanders' tight end room is they're now starting to use multiple tight ends, and they
But-
like their other tight ends.
But we
They're
don't know
using
that.
Cole
We don't
Turner.
know that.
They
When
talked
Logan
up-
Thomas was healthy, he was a tight end.
But what I'm saying is they've talked up these other guys. They've talked up Cole Turner. They've talked up Armani Rogers, or I think that's his name, Armani Rogers. So they've used these guys. So yeah,
Logan Thomas has been hurt. So
Of course, but
I'm
what I'm
holding. I'm
saying-
holding to see if he's
I mean, I got
healthy
you.
and they continue to do that.
I got
then
you.
I'll drop
For
him.
me, I just don't see Logan Thomas as having
Let's go.
super high potential. I'd rather get rid of Logan Thomas for a guy like a James Mitchell. somebody I do see as potentially having.
Yeah.
A
He
high
may not.
ceiling.
He may not even be the guy.
He might not, but I'll be able to kind of see if he has that ceiling. Great. If he doesn't, I'll drop him. You know, just like I would drop Logan Thomas because I don't see Logan Thomas having that
To
great
me,
ceiling.
I would prefer to hold on to a player like Logan Thomas than over Darrell Henderson because I feel like when you're in the buy and you're in a pinch and
How
you
are we
need
back to Darrell Henderson?
Yeah,
I know.
he has some kind of.
so,
I actually
but
have him in my
against Darrell
lineup.
Henderson.
I actually have Darrell
you know,
Henderson in my lineup.
y'all know I swing hard. Like I go back and forth with these players. Like I love Marquise one year, and then I can't even look at him this year. But no, to me, like players like Logan Thomas's, if they're healthy and they're getting the snaps, those guys can get you like a solid 10 to 14 points. Like they can get you a solid 10 to 14 points because it only takes 4 to 5 receptions, 30 to 40 yards, and then if they get in the end zone. So I can't ignore the
But
fact
you're
that
gonna play
Wentz
him
likes to
over
throw.
better options though. Like when are you gonna play Logan Thomas?
Sometimes you need to.
Because you don't have any other tight ends or something.
Last week I played Dolchik and Ingram.
Those
and
are
Kittle.
Those are both great plays.
They're great plays now, but they weren't great plays to begin
Yes,
with.
they were. Because I played all them dudes, including Conklin. Because these are guys that they potentially can have these high ceilings that I'm referring to.
But you say,
I mean,
but so can Logan Thomas.
I don't
You
see it
can-
with Logan Thomas. I don't see it with Logan Thomas.
Yeah, that's what we just disagree.
See,
that's what we disagree.
Okay. For those two scenarios,
That's what we disagree.
Ingram,
Denver
I don't
uses
think-
multiple tight
Hold on,
ends.
let me speak.
Okay, go
With
ahead.
Ingram, I don't see Dan Arnold being used much in the passing game. He's used,
But they have a lot of other weapons too, though.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like Ingram has some type of monopoly on the tight end position there, and we've kind of seen that with him. Dosage, he just came back. The first game he came back, he led the tight ends in snaps and yardage.
Yeah, but they still use multiple tight
But
ends.
what I'm saying is, we've seen him now have this ability to kind of show he can have a high ceiling. It's now been 2 weeks where he's been the main tight end guy, and he actually led the team in passing yards last year.
But I don't.
So
but
you're looking at two guys.
But you're discounting Logan Thomas's injury because you're saying,
I'm
now
not-
they're using multiple
I'm not
tight
dis-
ends.
I'm not
We don't know that
discounting-
that's not because that he was injured.
I'm not discounting. What I'm saying is him in general, I don't see him having that high potential. I think for you, you're looking at Logan Thomas as far as what he was able to do 2 years ago.
No.
So
He
you're
actually
looking
there. Look at his game log. There's game logs where he's put up 15 plus points.
I think
So-
his highest has been 14 points. I looked at it recently, and I mean that was a okay game. I think that was a game he scored a touchdown, so that was inflated
And that's him
by-
coming back off an ACL. So if that
Right,
ACL
again,
gets stronger and
I'm
he
not-
plays
I'm
more,
not- I'm not even speaking on the injury factor of it. I'm just saying, just in general, when we're talking about a fantasy game and what he's able to give me, a guy that's going to be now. If he's my tight end 1, I have no problem with it because why? You want that strong floor in your starters. You want to be able to put somebody in and say, at least I get this. But if I'm holding him as my tight end 3, and I have 2 solid, serviceable tight ends already that I'm able to play, I don't see any instance where I'm gonna say, okay, let me sit these guys. Of course, except for like an injury, but I don't see a situation where I say, let me sit these guys and put Logan Thomas because I feel like Logan Thomas is gonna be a better player. I just don't see that.
right now, no. 3 to 4 weeks from now, in our quarter 3 or quarter 4, that may not be the case.
Maybe. I mean, we can say that with anybody. So of course, maybe.
Yeah. So like, who are you stashing then? Like, who's that player that you're stashing, hoping that they turn it around?
For me, I don't even know.
I got a couple.
I mean, I think he mentioned. I don't want to say turn it around, but I'm trying to pick these guys that probably like Kyron Williams probably were hurt coming back.
He's on the list.
There's not a lot of players like that, of course.
Jalen Warren.
Yeah, but I was drafting him.
Yeah.
Again, I've never really dropped him.
Kadarius Toney's on the
Dontrell
fringe.
Hilliard. That's my guy.
Hilliard.
That's the guy because I've
Me
been
too.
seeing him dropped a fair amount, and I've been trying to scoop him up everywhere.
I've been scooping him up too.
because
yeah.
Derrick Henry's still an old running back
Yeah.
who still had a foot injury, a
And he-
major foot injury.
And he's
last year.
starting to get some standalone value too. Like he's starting to get some pretty high value touches as well.
1 week he gave you like a 0.4, which is horrible. But,
Yeah.
but other than that, his per game average has actually been pretty good. And again, he's 1 injury away. And I'm not a guy that really looks at schedule too much, but I was reading something recently. And they were talking about how the end of the season kind of plays out nicely for the Titans offense.
They play the Texans again.
Oh, that's great. See, there it goes right. That in itself is all you need to know.
Yeah.
So Hilliard is definitely somebody I could say I
Are you holding
stash
Tony?
him.
Kadarius
Pollard?
Toney? Kadarius Toney, are you holding Tony?
I never dropped him. I've been scooping him up too.
Yeah, him.
Dog,
I'm
you
not
just
sure.
letting go all these talented.
No, I haven't dropped him.
Okay,
He's
so
on the
here-
fringe.
so-
He's a hold right now, but
So here, I don't even know why you're
We'll see.
considering it right now that he's with the Chiefs. But here's the thing with me, and y'all know this has been my mantra forever. I'm a talent over situation guy. So for me, these players are not losing talent. You know, the talent is still there. You know, so when I see a player that's talented, I'm gonna try to have
The
him
one
on my
pushback
roster.
that I'll give you, to me, he's athletic, right? He's athletic and talented
He's a
in
human
an
joystick.
athletic way.
That's a homer. It's out of there.
No,
Oh,
man, you always say that. It's like a pop fly. Like it didn't even
Man, I can't
nowhere
see
near the
it.
warning
All I'm
track.
looking at is the guy swinging the
He didn't
bat.
even get to the warning track.
All I see is the guy. I
You
don't
can
know.
see, you can see by his face. He gave you the face of like,
Okay,
damn,
man,
I
look,
popped up.
I'm a
right?
casual. I'm a casual.
Okay. But anyway, what I was getting back with Tony is like, you know, year in and year out, we've seen that like offensive coordinators, like they want to get him on the field, but either he can't, you know, run routes the way that they want him to, or the way that the play
Bro,
calls,
bro,
or
what do you-
let me
whoa,
finish,
whoa,
let me
whoa.
finish, let me finish, let me
Personality,
finish,
that's what it's
let me
really.
finish, let me finish, or he doesn't understand the playbook. And there've been plenty of reports that say that like he has had a lot of difficulty with the playbook. So for this year, let me
wait.
finish. So for this year, when you're going to a new team and a guy, yes, he's greatly talented, but just because he's talented, even Tyreek Hill, when he came in, really didn't do anything his first year. So now you want
okay.
him to overtake these other guys,
look.
learn a playbook, do something he hasn't
Okay,
proven.
you made your point.
been
You
able
made
to
your
prove.
point.
You
But
know,
the problem I have with-
you haven't even.
the problem
you
I have
wouldn't
with
listen
your
to my
whole
point. He was just ready to come at me. He didn't want to listen to my point.
The problem I have with your first premise is you said he's had all these offensive coordinators. The guy was a rookie last year.
I didn't say no. That's not what I said. That's
you
not
said
what I
he's
said.
had offensive coordinators. He's
That's
only
not what I
had
said.
one.
You, see, you cut me off. I said he's had offensive coordinators that have wanted to get him on the
But
field.
he's only had
He
one.
cut me off again.
But this is the point I'm making. You're talking about a guy that he was a rookie last year. His sample size is so small, and he was injured for most of the season last year. We didn't really get to see him much before that one major game last year, and after that one major game.
So he's
This
also
year,
injury
only
prone.
Played, maybe that's the argument. He's injury prone. If he's injury prone, then that's not a big deal to me because when he's hurt, he's not going in my lineup anyways. But when he's active and he's able to play and he's healthy,
We'll see.
he's in my lineup. If once he gets acclimated, right now I'm probably not going to play him this week because I got to see him how they use him.
It's
But
gonna
if
be a
they feel
while.
comfortable, I don't think it's going to be wild much. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they use him out the gate. I just need to see it first.
He'll have like
And
a
there might be
package here or there,
situations-
but good luck with that.
There might be situations, certain teams I have where I have to play him, but I think by next week he's going to be somebody
Maybe.
that you can play.
That's a situation where you may want to play Darrell Henderson.
What do you got against Kadarius Toney, man? Like, what
I
did
know.
Tony do
I'm
to
just
you?
saying, I do not. I do
But you
not
haven't seen
see
anything
it.
yet. You have
I
nothing,
have seen it.
You
I have
nothing
seen
to go
it.
off of. He's on a new team.
I do have
He's
things
on
to
a
go
new
off of.
team.
Okay.
He hasn't been healthy. How many games has Tony played this year? One?
It's not about how many games he's played. It's
No,
about literally
I'm
what they
asking-
talk.
what I'm saying is you've only seen him one time.
He has been healthy. He's not even been hurt. He's had a hamstring.
But-
he literally said he was
but-
healthy.
but
They did not
report-
want to play him.
But reports have said he's been hurt. What I'm saying, we haven't seen him.
But like he tweeted
All
that
of
he
a
was
sudden,
healthy. He
all of
did
a sudden,
tweet it.
now he healthy.
No,
Now he healthy.
But regardless of whether he's healthy or not, we've only seen him one time this year, if we've even seen much at all. I don't even think he played a full game yet. And then we saw him once last year. So we haven't really seen what he truly is. He's with a great team, a great offensive system, a team that value him enough to trade for
Great
him. They said they
quarterback.
wanted him last year.
I'm not knocking his
So
athleticism. I think
let's
he's a
see
great
what
dynasty.
happens. Well, let's see what, because if the situation plays out great with the guy that we see, most people see of him having a lot of talent. You take that talent, take that situation, you put it together, then Yahtzee, like we always say. So I don't see no reason to give up on Tony. If he doesn't work out after
I'm not
3
giving up.
weeks,
I'm holding. I'm just very skeptical.
that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
being skeptical doesn't matter to me because I'm still going to see what happens,
Yeah.
Is
whether I'm
Tony-
skeptical or not.
Is Tony the death of Sky Moore?
Yeah, Scott Mill been there.
Both of them dynasty picks in my mind.
Tony,
You look at the rosters.
this guy really is Kadarius Toney. This is
I
crazy.
don't. You want to put money on it right now that
What are we putting money on?
he is not their top 2 wide receiver to finish the year. It's like from this moment on, as far as
Yeah.
points scored,
You have to start from
He
this.
won't be. He's not going to be the wide receiver 1 or the wide receiver 2 on that team.
See, I don't know how long it's gonna take him to get acclimated.
Well,
Because if it takes him
okay.
like a couple weeks, then
Okay.
obviously he'll start from behind. I like the bet, but
I mean, you already like in the negative.
Give
like,
him a
what,
week, then.
500?
Yeah,
How much you down?
I'm not down at all. What are you talking about?
You're not down. All right, whatever. Let's come
I'm
on.
not down at all.
You might be down
You
a
always
little
making
bit.
these makeup bets all the time.
Did you have a
Anyway,
bet on Damian Pierce?
No.
Because we didn't shake on it.
Yeah, yeah.
There was no bet.
That's right.
What
That's
was the
right.
bet?
You did.
There was
say
no
that.
bet to
you
make.
did
Y'all
pull
can't
one of
even-
those.
Y'all can't even say what the bet was.
Man,
'Cause I
we
never
had
said he wasn't
we
gonna start.
literally had a whole
But what was-
30-minute
but what was the
session
bet?
It was a
arguing.
Marlon Mack versus.
It
No,
wasn't
but
Marlon.
I never
No,
said anything.
It was Damian Pierce versus who was the Baltimore running back?
Tyler Beatty.
Tyler
I said I
Beatty.
like.
Oh, yeah,
I said I like
Where-
Tyler Beatty's
where's Tyler
situation
Beatty
better.
now?
Yeah.
Where's Tyler Beatty right now?
But again,
On the waiver
there
wire.
was no bet. There was no bet to make.
Okay.
Y'all can't even. Every time I ask y'all can't even say what the bet is.
Nah,
Y'all
but there was a bet, though.
No, there was just a debate.
That's all right.
Just like we debate everything.
I'll take the take.
But we watched the tape. We watched the tape like 10 times already. You still looking for some random phantom bet?
Let's talk about trades. So listen, the trade deadline was Tuesday, yesterday, as of this recording, which is on Wednesday. Trade deadline is over. Any trade ramifications going forward that you think that are going to really shape the season going forward for fantasy? Specifically, like, let's talk about that Buffalo situation.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary was already kind of shaky. I was
wouldn't-
always kind of...
I think, I wouldn't say that he was shaky. I feel like they have roles for their running backs, and I feel like they want to use multiple running backs because they don't feel like they have one elite running back that can do everything.
Right.
They tried to get Christian McCaffrey, someone who could do everything. They couldn't get him. So they were just basically saying, okay, we like Devin Singletary in between the tackles.
Yeah.
Let's get a guy who can play third down and be a little explosive. That's probably why they also drafted James Cook. And we can say that, James Cook has been looking better. He's talented. He's athletic, this and that. Buffalo is telling us that they don't feel like that is enough for what they want to do this year.
Yeah.
That's why they went to go get Nyheim Hines. You don't go get a player like that if you're not going to use him. Nyheim Hines is not really. I don't think he's going to have much effect on Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
I think he'll play third down. He'll play some passing downs. I think we see probably less of Cook. But honestly, I think it's just kind of going to be a muddled situation.
Cook is dead now.
Is it taboo if I say
I'm done with.
I
dropped
it right now.
Ooh.
Is it taboo if I say that?
God, don't say that out loud, man.
Just asking.
It's 8.5 through, though. Like, it's pretty much over.
Don't
Oh,
say
that's
that
what it's
out
taboo. I
loud.
ain't know.
I'm purposely
I don't know.
jinxing that.
I don't know how it
I'm
works.
purposely jinxing
I don't know how the
that.
superstition works. My bad.
I mean, the game is pretty
We
much
saw
over.
them put up 5+ runs already.
Oh, yeah,
in
the
the
game
inning.
is over.
Not on
This
Presley,
is
though.
it.
This man, y'all
Not
don't know nothing
impressive.
about baseball, man.
Oh, yeah,
They're
this
not
is
gonna do it
basically.
Man, I need you to
over.
put your rally cap back on. I need you to
What's
turn
a
that into a
rally
rally cap.
When you flip
Take
it
a
inside out.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But this is
Why
pretty
we got
much
a rally?
over.
We got a five-run lead right now.
Because
Yeah.
you jinxing it.
There's no way we lose this game.
No way in hell.
All right, can we get back on topic? I'm making me very uncomfortable right now.
Right, this is automatic.
Take it to the bank.
Yeah, Presley
Oh
closes.
man, I
the
hate
bottom of
y'all.
the ninth.
Yeah.
Hate y'all
There's
so
nobody
much.
on to whip it out.
Yeah.
You're like,
Oh,
how hard is it
man.
to get two
Future
more
World
outs?
Series champs.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's no way.
Hey,
we
what's
lose.
the next topic, man?
No. Let's talk about trade ramifications. No. So we're
So
talking
y'all
about
talking
Buffalo.
about Singletary and the Bills.
Right. Bringing in Nyheim, like, are you still playing Devin Singletary? Like, is he still an option with Nyheim coming in? Do you think Nyheim is good?
He's a tier above Darrell Henderson.
Here's my thing, man. Here's my thing. I'm gonna play Singletary for sure. We'll see what I do with Hines because I'm not even sure Hines is gonna play this week. But here's my thing. I think the problem us as fantasy players sometimes we get into this position where we try to predict what's gonna happen instead of just being patient and seeing what's gonna happen and just letting whatever happens happen and then learn from that. Because I think the problem when we try to predict is we go down this rabbit hole. I think this is going to play out this way. So if this plays out this way, this is going to be the ramifications, and then this is going to play out this, and then so on and so forth till we convince ourselves, almost definitively like this is how it's going to happen. Instead of just saying,
And then we
okay,
get upset when it don't happen.
when it don't happen. Instead of just saying, you know what, Hines is now with the Bills. Singletary's still there. We know they want to run back. Singletary is not just going to go to the bench.
Yeah.
So let's just see what happens. It's going to really take us 1 week. One week. I would say that 1 week where we're finding out, I would still play Singletary and maybe not play Hines.
Yeah, I play him this week.
Yeah. But once we learn it,
Yeah, it's gonna take about 2 or 3 weeks for us to learn it.
once we learn it, then you move. You know what I'm saying? But don't say, well, I think this was going to happen, and then now make it just like, I think people are saying Hines is going to be the main back.
And real
And then
talk-
say, okay, let me put Hines in my lineup because he's going to be the starter.
Right.
And if that's your only option, then so be it.
Let me go down a rabbit hole real quick. Because we always hear about the running backs who want to run out the slot, but Nyheim Hines can literally play the slot role.
Yeah.
So, and I think there was talks. Oh man, every time I think there was talks about James Cook and Singletary being on the field at the same time. James Cook lining out wide, and he's a rookie, so really kind of like, and really expecting him to play that role, take on that role the first year, and that's something they really want to incorporate in the offense, maybe he's just not ready, and maybe they know that he's not ready because we really haven't seen it from them. Yeah. So, kind of going back to the idea of Singletary maybe not really losing much value, but and both potentially having significant value. I really do think this kills some of James Cook's value. He's a player that he's a player that I've dropped.
Droppable.
Yeah, he's a player that I've dropped.
He is super droppable.
Yeah, I would drop him obviously over Darrell Henderson.
He was kind of droppable before this week anyway.
But this is the one thing. I don't he wasn't droppable before this week because Zach Moss wasn't playing. And I think the one thing that you can he played a little bit more last week. Yeah. The one thing that I would say about James Cook is he's looked a lot better in between the tackles as a runner than I have conceived. So I will say this: if Singletary gets hurt, it's not a situation where I think we just see a lot of Nyheim Hines. I really think that Singletary or that James Cook is the backup to Singletary. But I don't necessarily know that I want to just really hold on to a backup, or handcuff in an RBBC. Yeah. So there's that.
I just don't think we've seen anything from James Cook to even feel like he warrants having a role on our roster. Like I don't think we've seen anything at all.
He's a guy. I don't even want to be saying this out loud, but like closer towards the end of the year, if everybody's healthy and he's just like on the waiver wires, he's a guy I'm scooping up going into tournaments. Like I'm gonna try to get as many James Cook on my roster going into tournaments as possible.
Because are you scared of injury? Like,
no, because
you think he's gonna take that role?
Because if you can roster Jerick McKinnon right now, because he's in a high-powered offense, you should be rostering a James Cook because one injury,
same difference,
or two injury. Now he's he is in a high power and he's athletic. Yeah, and he's got the juice.
I think for me a home run breaker. The biggest difference in those two scenarios is we've seen the Chiefs lean on McKinnon and trust him as far as being the guy.
Good luck with that.
While we have never seen the Bills do that with Cook.
Well, sometimes if you ain't never seen nothing and you don't want to take that leap of faith, you miss out.
I mean, I agree. I'm just saying we just haven't seen it yet with Cook.
I've seen enough from Jerick McKinnon this year.
I mean, I'm okay maybe this year, but what I'm saying is we've seen McKinnon play that role, and we don't know if Cook can play that role. So I mean, if you want to hold on to him, so be it.
Come on now.
If you want to hold on to it, so be it. But for me, he's like he hasn't done anything to warrant. Like he's not even a backup running back right now, so he's like just kind of rostering a third.
Situations change. Yeah, I mean that's what you're doing with Darrell Henderson. That's what you're doing with Darrell Henderson.
Henderson is like on starting running back on that team.
He's not the starting. He did not start last week. And he does not listed as a starter last week.
But that goes back to whether he was banged up or sick.
He was not banged up. He had an illness. But prior to that, practiced two days before.
Prior to that point, Henderson...
they showed the catch again.
But prior to that point, Henderson had been the starter. James Cook has never been a starter.
Yeah.
So the guy went...
It's not the same situation.
Number one, James Cook is a rookie. So we expect rookies to get better. Darrell Henderson is a veteran. He lost his starting job to a guy named Ronnie Rivers. Game time. 2-2. Let's go.
Now I can say no hitter?
Now you can say no hitter. 5-0. Let's go. Tied up. Yeah. So I would rather bet on the rookie with talent than the vet who lost his starting job to, I'm assuming that Rivers is a UDFA, and Kyron Williams is coming back, and we may see Akers. And oh, by the way, they also gave goal line carries to Marlon Mack. Give me Cook. Behind the beat up O line. Nah, y'all can. I would rather have James Cook than Darrell Henderson.
Nah.
Put that on tape right now.
Yeah. Like now that's gonna be one that's on wax.
Put that on wax.
I'm gonna do a compilation at the end of the year.
Right there.
That's all about preference, on wax.
I think this is more so just him being against Henderson.
Yeah. I'm not against Henderson.
You are.
No.
You just did your whole
literally Henderson was my highest owned RB.
Was past tense.
Yeah. Exactly, was his past tense.
Now,
I don't care.
Kick rocks, Henderson.
Yeah.
It's not kick rocks. It's just
No, it's kick rocks though.
Yeah,
move on to better, greener pastures.
Yeah. Yeah, that's your cousin-in-law, by the way.
I missed that one.
The grass was greener on the other side of the fence. I mean, it was. In this situation, it was. All right, let's go. Let's move on.
But the family tree don't work that way. That's why you threw me totally off.
It doesn't. Oh man, that's all I got for this week, man. Like we're at an hour right now.
Wait. But we didn't speak on who I think is the biggest beneficiary from the trade deadline.
Oh, okay, go.
And it's a guy that I haven't really heard much of at all.
Who?
Chase Claypool.
Justin Fields. Not
Chase Claypool. Because I think he's now the number 1 wide receiver for the Bears. Day one. Think about it. Him and Mooney were in the same draft. Mooney was a 5th-round pick. Claypool was a 2nd-round pick. They traded a 2nd-round pick for Claypool. And here's the thing with trades of players that are drafted. Usually, you trade them for a draft pick lower than the slot they were picked up. You know, like first-round picks are probably getting traded for like 2nds or 3rds. You know, like look at what Tony was traded for. You know, 2nd-round picks, 3rd, 4th, 5th. You know, something like that. The Bears still saw Claypool's value as still being in the same draft slot as where he was picked. You know what I'm saying? And you heard they were other teams were competing for him. And then, like we were saying before, Mooney is a fake number 1 wide receiver. He's in a prime position now.
Claypool's been a fake number 1 wide receiver.
Claypool's never been a number 1.
He's fake. He's not really produced. But he's
never had the role of being a number 1.
You can give him all the excuses and then take away all the excuses from
Mooney.
I'm not giving him. Mooney produces a number 1 last year.
I'm not giving him an excuse.
We've seen Mooney do it. We have not seen Claypool do it.
What I'm saying is Claypool's never been a team's number 1 receiver. And now with the Bears, because if you take talent between Claypool and Mooney, I'll put my money on Claypool easily. Again, they were in the same draft class, which was 2 years ago. Everybody saw Claypool as a
bigger frame,
a better draft prospect than Mooney.
They saw.
Now they're on the same team. The Bears traded a 2nd-round pick for this guy.
Bears do a lot of crazy things.
All I'm saying is Claypool right now. So do y'all not see a possibility as far as Claypool being the number 1 wide receiver?
No.
They traded for N'Keal Harry too. So I mean, I don't.
No, but they didn't trade a lot for him. I think it was like a conditional 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But do y'all see a situation? Or do y'all not see a situation where Claypool's the number 1 wide receiver for the Bears?
I don't think
and
it'll be.
If he is, do y'all not see any value in that?
I do.
Because they have nobody else. We already talked about the offense improving.
So a couple different things. Claypool. We're not gonna talk as if because this is mostly
You
high
hate
stakes.
a lot of players, bro.
No, I'm saying look. No, I'm saying
I gotta make a
most
list.
people who listen to this podcast play high stakes. So
Okay.
Claypool, I have not seen on anybody's waivers. Okay, so if you're talking about whether or not you can sit and start him, we're gonna go back to your point earlier. Let's wait and see. Okay. But I think it's going to be a very tough situation to gauge.
I think once he's active, I'm putting him in
an offense that does not throw the ball a lot. It's going to be a very tough situation to gauge whether or not you're going to be able to rely on Claypool week in, week out. I definitely think it hurts Mooney. But when you're saying the biggest winner, to me, it's Justin Fields. He was already playing better. Now you get him a legit weapon. You get the offense a weapon that can move the ball, not just through the air, but like they can kind of run some creative schemes.
Has Fields been putting up fantasy points thus far?
Yes.
Not really.
Yes, he had.
No. Wait. Let me
I think
finish
he's
my
been
line of
top
questioning.
5 quarterback like
Let me
the
finish
last
my line
4
of questioning.
weeks.
Forget what Chris said. Yes, he has.
Yeah.
With Claypool, do you think he's going to put up a significant more amount of fantasy points? Like, you think it's going to increase his value that much more?
I do. Anytime you can increase, anytime you can improve on the offensive deficiencies, yes,
for the
I
last
do.
few weeks, Fields is averaging around 20 points. So where do you think he's going to average now with Claypool on the team?
It's not necessarily about that.
But that's what I'm referring to.
But let me
But that's what I'm referring to. I'm talking about fantasy-wise. Do you see his fantasy?
I'm talking about fantasy.
Okay.
I never expect a player. You can name X player. They produce X over the last 5 weeks. Does that change moving forward based on additions or subtraction? You can't look at it like that. Because over the last 5 weeks, you can look at opponent, you can look at game script, you can look at a number of different things that led to that production. It's the same thing with like Justin Hurts or Jalen Hurts. Sometimes, he plays a very, very weak opponent where he just doesn't have to throw the ball as much or they can run him. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hurts, scores 16 points tomorrow, because they just run all over the Texans. So I can't say that like, what I'm saying is I think it's going to improve the offense as a whole.
Okay,
so
that's
I think
cool.
it helps
but
out.
Isn't Claypool a part of that offense?
Yeah, I think it helps out Justin Fields' fantasy value for the rest of the year.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Fields has been producing. With Claypool, how much more do y'all see
I
him
think we
produce?
can now see spike weeks.
Do you think he's going to have a 25% increase now in weekly output?
I think we now see spike weeks where before he was kind of just it was basically everybody else was sucking and he was doing decent. Now I see him he may actually give us a week where he's like QB2, QB1.
My argument is Claypool hasn't really been doing much at all this season. Now, thus far, but now with the Bears, especially playing the role I think he's going to play,
Claypool's actually been doing a little bit something.
I think he's had one good game.
He's had like 2 or 3.
We're in week 8. He's had 8 weeks, and I think he's had like one good game.
Okay.
But if he plays the role as far as a de facto number 1 wide receiver for the Bears, I see him now having week in, week out potential to be an every week starter. So I think he potentially has the biggest improvement as far as fantasy value. And obviously we'll see how it plays out, but for me, it's easily him for me.
Here's why, I disagree with you guys. It's because the most passing yards, I'm just looking at his stats right now. The most passing yards he's thrown for the entire season is 208. This increase in fantasy points is because he's running the ball more.
Right.
The last 3 weeks, he's run the ball more.
Right.
That doesn't involve Chase Claypool.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Chase...
Fields is not the guy that's going to benefit. I don't see Fields as having an improvement in his fantasy production. I see Claypool as having an improvement in the fantasy production.
But see, I don't
Fields,
see.
I think it's going to be the same thing.
I don't see it that way. To me, when you improve the offense, it goes back to the CMC argument. We were worried about CMC's touches and this and that. But when you improve the offensive efficiency, you improve scoring chances. So now instead of, maybe he doesn't run for as many yards, or maybe he throws for 2 or 3 touchdowns, or maybe he's in scoring position more. Maybe now he can increase his rushing touchdowns because he's now more in scoring positions. They're sustaining drives more. They're more competitive from that standpoint. So I think anything that improves the offense in general will help out the quarterback, especially when you're so deficient in a wide receiver. To actually give your quarterback a legit starting wide receiver, I don't see how it doesn't significantly help him.
Listen, their schedule is pretty light the next few weeks. That might make your case, but I don't think that necessarily their team.
We'll see. Man, y'all also didn't think he was playing better. Now look at me.
I agree with you that he played better.
You just said he's been playing better.
But y'all didn't say that before.
Because
he wasn't. He was trash.
Okay.
When he was trash, he said he was trash.
He said he was
Now
trash.
that he got better,
He was showing improvement. He was showing improvement.
Nah, he was trash, bro. Come on now.
Come on, yeah.
We were targeting defenses to play the Bears.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, that ain't worked out lately.
Nah,
Yeah, 'cause he
we
played
kinda-
better.
Yeah, he's just running the ball more.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
They're actually scheming him.
But that hasn't helped
his
Mooney.
strengths.
Yeah, that hasn't helped
Mooney,
Komet.
Mooney is not what people made him out to be, man.
Man, you hate Mooney.
Yeah.
I was one of the first people that was on Mooney.
Nah, you
But
hate
when
him
I was
this
on Mooney,
entire
I was
year.
more on him as a good complimentary piece. Once people started saying he's the number one wide receiver, I was like, nah, I don't see him that way. He doesn't have the frame. He doesn't have the draft capital.
He doesn't have the frame as a number one.
He doesn't have the
receiver.
cash. He has nothing like that.
Yeah.
Him being the argument for him being the number one wide receiver was circumstance based. There was no other wide receivers there.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
So
and you were hoping that Allen Robinson at the time was going to pull some coverage,
Right.
which allowed Darnell Mooney to,
Right.
to be.
But you see how fragile his position is. I mean, Claypool. You can argue Claypool. There's not many teams Claypool could go to and be the number one wide receiver. But you can argue now him come to the Bears, he's going to be the number one wide receiver. So
I agree with this. An argument to be made.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I mean, let's see. The thing with the Bears, though, and this is a slight tangent, it was weird for me to see them make that trade because it was like a trade to improve your team, but they traded their two best defensive players. So it's like,
which
what are you
didn't-
doing? Are you trying to some extent, tank or help assist?
I didn't really get it either.
Or are you trying to go for it because aren't they leading the division or maybe second in the division?
No.
The Packers are not doing well.
Minnesota leads the division there.
Minnesota and then the Bears.
Yeah, and then it could be the Bears. Yeah.
Another plus for Justin Fields because now that defense is is worse. They're in a worse position now. So now
The defense wasn't good before though.
it wasn't good, but now it's really bad. And you just gave away your two best players.
Okay, I don't think it changed. I don't think that offense changing much, man.
I mean, you said their defense wasn't good before, but there were some games where they were like holding down opponents. That Washington game, we can talk as much about Wentz, but they held them down. They held down the Patriots. Their defense was like they held down the Texans. Their defense, like to some degree, was kind of respectable as far
Those
as
are
like
three
not.
offenses that don't
Yeah.
Well, we've seen the
Don't make
Patriots.
anybody feel good.
We've seen the Patriots explode. We've seen the Texans do well. The Texans
seen the Patriots.
Texans did
I haven't
well.
seen
What
a couple
season? What season are you talking about? Bro?
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
We've seen Zappy
You know
go
how I
off.
feel
We've
like-
seen we've seen things happen.
I'm gonna let y'all
Zappy came in halfway through that game and
Who
first.
else they held San Francisco. Okay, you can say that's a run game. They held Green Bay. They held Houston. They held the Giants. They even held Minnesota. They made that a tough game. They made Washington. They made the only game where they got absolutely blown out was Dallas.
I think with the Bears, the thing about them is their pace of game is so slow that they don't have high scoring games. Like all their games are going to be somewhere between like.
But they were kind of
20.
But they were kind of able to do that because their defense at least was to some degree respectable.
That or they just run the ball a lot, and so they're grinding out the clock. I mean, I'm sorry, not the Giants. The Bears. nobody is worried about the Bears defense. Never have been, never will, or won't be for the rest of the season. But Fields, I think what they're doing with him now, they found it as being successful, so they're going to keep doing it. The difference, I think, is now that you have a Claypool, you have actually a true weapon out there that when you do throw the ball, all those targets that were going to Mooney and Pettis. By the way, Pettis was showing out for a while. That's when I knew Mooney really was just a fake. You know, like how you have Dante Pettis outshining you. Pettis, N'Keal Harry, all those targets that those guys were getting, those are all guys that the past teams gave up on. Now can go to actual skilled wide receivers. So
a lot of those were broken plays, though. A lot of those were like Justin Fields was scrambling. He's on the opposite field. Mooney's on this side. He's scrambling. He's just looking for somebody who's wide open. Those weren't necessarily like, Pettis was like the first read in the majority of throws.
I got you. Real quick, 'cause I think we're about to end. I think we mentioned it, but I just want to reiterate. James Mitchell, I think is somebody.
And who's the other guy there? There was a tight end.
It's Brock Wright, but
yeah,
I think y'all should take a look at James Mitchell for your dynasty teams, especially. That they got rid of Hawkinson.
I just can't on my dynasty team, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I can't take another time.
And then the Texans, and we didn't touch on them at all, but them losing Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks looking like he might.
Brevin Jordan.
No.
I picked up. Okay, all right.
No. It's just that there are other wide receivers there because somebody has to play wide receiver. So those are, your Chris Moore, not Farrell Brown, Philip Dorsett. Not aspiring options, but options nonetheless.
Yeah.
So somebody got to catch the ball, and the Texans going to be losing games, which means they're going to be throwing every single game. So just some players.
I don't know. Look out for Brevin Jordan.
Brevin Jordan is still fighting for snaps with Jordan Akins. Jordan Akins scored touchdowns every week.
He hasn't been healthy. He's
Still
just
got
not
O.J.
getting
Howard
healthy.
there,
He's
too.
just
And
not
O.J.
getting
Howard, yeah.
He's just not getting healthy. Starting to get a little bit more targets now. They need receivers. He's like a receiving type tight end. Be on the lookout for Brevin Jordan coming out. This is the kind of team.
Go, man.
No. So early in the season when your team is competing and everybody's healthy, like not the time for Brevin Jordan. Late in the season when you're on a bad team, disgruntled wide receiver one, wide receiver two is not there. They need targets. You need easy catches.
O.J. Howard.
Easy options.
Brevin be sitting on the bench watching.
All right. All right, guys. So we're over an hour. That's it for this halftime episode. I don't know if I'm believing in Brevin Jordan either. But please
Man, they never believe in my picks.
Please
They never believe in my picks.
rate, subscribe. We're out.
All right.
Paralyzed state of mind. Still my eyes go drip, trying to find the other side. While the sky is going drip.